Ellie regarded him with that tight-lipped, annoyed air he'd seen several times already. He'd drifted off into his thoughts and hadn't a clue what she'd said to him. He realised her hair had begun to escape its clip and had the promise of the wildness he'd imagined. A ripple of anticipation spiked through his body. She abruptly put down her clipboard and rearranged it, as if she'd read his mind and sensed the effect the stray curls were having on him. Phew, that was better, less tantalising. Touching a purple pot to distract himself and get back into control of his mind and body, he marvelled at the silkiness of the glaze. "Is this the type of pottery you sell?" "No, these are made from coil clay. I throw pots on a wheel." Her long fingers were unadorned by rings, her nails clipped short. The image of those hands manipulating clay caused another shiver down his spine. It was only a short hop in his mind to her touching his own skin. Whoa! She took ages over her scoring. Harry had given up following her around the hall. He was impressed by the number of exhibits, but there were few that inspired him. Instead, he sat by the window, watching the dynamics of the school children at break time. The younger ones playing ball, the older ones hanging around in groups practising looking bored and disinterested. This world would soon be his responsibility. He relished the thought of belonging somewhere again. "Finished," Ellie announced. "Come on then, I'm intrigued. Which piece did you choose for first prize?" Harry got up and went to the first display board they'd viewed. "Number 15. "Oh no, that one can't win." He could swear that her face went white. "Why not? It's by far the best." He examined the canvas more closely. The title was Fireworks, and it clearly depicted a sky full of colourful explosions above the buildings of a town, possibly Morton. The perspective of the buildings and the reflections of the fireworks in some of the windows showed real skill. Harry could almost believe himself to be an observer of the scene. "I agree, but it was painted by my son Tom, so it can't win. It would look like favouritism." "Won't Tom be upset not to have his talent recognised?" "He'll understand, and I'll put it right with him later." She was messing with her hair again. Harry turned to stare at her son's picture as he fought down his interest. In his view, the canvas stood out like a beacon amongst the other work. "He's obviously got your artistic genes. What about if I make a special award?" He grinned at Ellie. "There really is no need." She stared at him, curiosity written all over her features. He reminded himself he needed to be wary and wandered off to look out of the window again. Break time had finished and the schoolyard stood empty. After a never-ending lunch with John Williams and the school governors, Ellie and Harry sat next to each other on the stage in front of all the pupils of the school. Ellie tried to spot her son in the faces before her. Harry's leg brushed against her skirt. Her awareness of him was so heightened that she could feel the warmth of him, smell his subtle aftershave, and settled her own breathing to the rhythm of his. She tried to look at him without turning her head and noticed he had a slightly deformed ear. It looked like a rugby injury. He reached out to scratch his knee, and she saw a strange mark above his wrist. It covered a section of his lower forearm. Unbidden, a vision floated into her mind of a tattoo above a strong hand, a surfboard, sandy legs. She stiffened in shock and examined Harry more closely. No, it was impossible. It couldn't be him. He met her gaze, and she was sure she could sense alarm in his expression. Her heart began to drum. She looked away, staring unseeing at her clipboard, trying to focus on her score sheet, but it was next to impossible given the turmoil inside her. John Williams stood and welcomed Harry and Ellie as the art competition judges, talked about Ellie's gallery in the centre of town and her work with the school, and introduced Harry as his successor from September. The young people sat silently in rows in front of her, oblivious to her confusion. In a few moments she would be asked to announce the winners of the competition. A scream bubbled inside of her, and she fought to control it. Would she be able to speak now that she knew for certain? His name wasn't Harry Dixon. It was Ben Rivers. And Ben Rivers was dead.